it needs to at some point stop and be like, it's not just about me then. Like, how do I help other people feel better and more resourced? And that is often where our higher callings come in, and why we need to reclaim the sense of self-worth to be able to step into that. Because if we're not feeling worthy, it's difficult to mirror that to other people, to make them feel like anything more than what they're experiencing is available to them. And like, again, I said this is nuanced, because for some people what is available to them is completely different to what's going to be available to someone else, because of the way the world is set up. And we can't deny that, and we can't pretend that that's not the truth. And that is why we've got to be looking at, like, how do I turn around and take the hand of the person next to me, or who's just a couple steps behind me, or a few steps behind me? How do I help that person move forward? And often we don't have the capacity to do that, because we're stuck in our own unhealed wounds that need to be looked at and attended to, so that we have the capacity and the resources within us to be able to go and help other people, and take the hand of the person next to you, and live out that higher calling of being in service. And that's not for everyone.
Welcome to the Wildflower Diaries Show, where we have meaningful conversations and contemplations to bring you back to life. I'm Beth, your host and guide, to help you along your healing journey and to really start living life fully. We have forgotten that we are the builders, creators, weavers, lovers, visionaries and dreamers. Through these discussions, learn and implement practices to remember and reconnect to all of who you are. Your body, intuition, power, heart, voice, mind and magic are ready to be reclaimed, so that you can make ripple effects of change that you know deep down you are made for. Let's get started with this week's episode.
Welcome to we're on episode 7 of the first season of the Wildflower Diaries Show. And today I'd like to speak a bit about worthiness and self-worth. So I've called this episode Reclaiming Your Worthiness, so that you can step into your higher calling. And I wanted to focus a bit on what makes us feel unworthy, what is worthiness anyway, and what I see often that is making people feel less worthy of the things that they desire. And then just also what you can do to help you move through these feelings of being unworthy. And the reason, again, that I'm passionate about this is, I'm going to look at it from 2 different angles, because how does self-worth issues show up in corporate jobs, for example, and how it's then shown up in having a business of my own? Because that's been something I've really had to work the hardest on, really, is believing I deserve certain things, feeling worthy, feeling enough. So let's start there. Worthiness, the word actually is the quality of being good enough. And that is something I think everyone struggles with, is feeling good enough, feeling that we are good enough, that we deserve what we are looking to achieve in life. And what happens, though, is there's 2 sides of that coin too, because there's the good enough, and then when we start to work towards feeling good enough, then there is the I'm too much now. So there's definitely always contradictions. So what I have found when it comes to feeling worthy is worthiness has become very much transactional. So I have to do something specific, or I have to be something specific in order to be worthy. And this has really knocked us all, because we've forgotten that we are worthy. We're born worthy. We were, from the moment we were conceived, we were all worthy. And we've started, because of society and the way the world is set up, to think that certain people are more worthy than others. And it's not a wonder that we are now like feeling that there's something wrong with us and that we're unworthy. So I really wrote it is like, there is no one person who's more worthy than another. There is no one person that is more worthy than another, but the world is showing us something completely different. So this is how I've been seeing it often showing up. Firstly, what really leads to people feeling unworthy is shame. And that's things we've done in the past: shame, regret, guilt. And we have this deep conditioning that is very much deep based in good, bad, evil, and light, dark. Very much this rational way of looking at things as black and white. And this black and white thinking means that we often really beat ourselves up for things that we've done in the past. And this really knocks our self-worth and feeling like we deserve certain things, because we label ourselves and things that we've done as bad, and we hold on to that for dear life. And that, for me, has been what I see the most, as really knocking people's self-esteem and making them feel that they don't deserve what they're looking to get in life. And if they want to move into something different, that they're not worthy of it. So it really hinders people from really moving forward, and we're stuck in the shame. And specifically as women, like, there's so much shame that has kept us really stuck and staying small, because we've been told that so many things that are naturally part of our existence is not okay, and with that shame means that, as I say, we then don't believe that we are worthy, and we struggle with the sense of feeling that we're enough. So this black and white thinking, this rigid thinking, and then coming back to beating ourselves up about what we've done in the past, what we should have done differently, this coulda, shoulda, woulda. The way to move forward from that is learning how to forgive ourselves. And often there's a lot of speak about forgiving other people for things that have happened. But I've found that self-forgiveness is one of the biggest things that we can give ourselves, because we're looking for other people to tell us what we're doing is okay, that validation. And often what we're really looking and needing is for us to forgive ourselves for things we've done and ways we've behaved in the past, or how we've shown up in certain situations. Even in the worst things that have happened to us, there's often self-forgiveness that's really needed for us to be able to then heal and claim our true worth, which has always been there. So that's the first thing. Then obviously, because of certain situations that have happened to us, we form these beliefs about ourselves. We start to think that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy, like we're too big for our boots, or who do we think we are to try and have certain things or step into something different. So there's so many different beliefs, and each of us has to do the self-inquiry of finding what those beliefs are for us. But a lot of the big ones are that I'm not enough. But when we then start to work on healing that, the opposite side of the coin comes up, like I mentioned before, of like, oh, well, now I'm too much. I'm going to be too big for my boots. I'm going to, be out there, and people are going to be like, well, what are you trying to do? This happens both in corporates and in if you have a business. Like, it really will show up as I'm not good enough, and then, or I'm too much, and we swing sometimes between the two. And I really see these beliefs that what happens is they make us lean towards perfectionism. There's this big fear of failure that we all feel, that if I fail, I'm not worthy. If I get things wrong, I'm not going to be worthy and deserving. I must always have it right and have my ducks in a row. And with that, perfectionism means that we push harder, we work harder, and then we lack boundaries. We don't put any boundaries in place. And we basically are looking to the world to confirm for us that we're worthy, because deep down there's a part of us that often believes that we're not. And it's these parts that then go into freeze and collapse, and it gets misinterpreted as procrastination, and it gets mistold that we're lazy, and that you again then start to be like, wow, why can't I keep up? Why can't I do what everyone else is doing? when it's actually your body's natural response to freeze in these moments, because we're so scared of failing and we're so scared of getting it wrong, because what will that mean about us? And again, then it starts to be the self-fulfilling prophecy that I'm never going to be enough, and that means I'm not worthy of having anything more than what I've been given. And then this leads into a lot of what the world has put in place, which is this comparison and this competition that constantly starts to happen. So we then start comparing ourselves to other people and looking at their lives and thinking, okay, well, if I don't have that, then I'm obviously not worthy of it. I don't deserve it. And again, this goes back to what we were talking about in the previous episode, is that it's not necessarily then taking into consideration the time of life that you are currently in. It's not taking into consideration that, you know, someone else might be at a completely different stage of their life, but we start to then look at that, and that comparison makes us feel even less worthy and makes us feel like there's something wrong with us and that we should be doing more. Or again, if the opposite can happen, and for some people, instead of it feeling like we should be doing more, we freeze and we get stuck and we feel like I can't take any steps forward, because even if I do it, I'm going to fail anyway, which again then means I'm not worthy. So it very much goes into these cycles, and it'll show up different for different people. And breaking that cycle is really seeing it for what it is. Instead of beating ourselves up for procrastinating, this big procrastination we're all being told we're doing, it's like actually having compassion for ourselves, that we're freezing because we feel unsafe to step forward, or that we're overworking because we feel that that's the only way we're going to feel validated and feel worthy. So there's definitely a need for compassion in these moments, and looking at, why am I showing up that way? Why do I show up this way? Why do I do this? And instead of trying to blanket it like we've tried to do and like name it and label it, sit with yourself. What does it mean for you? Because what it means for you is completely different often to what it means for someone else. There's a reason it shows up for you as an individual. And another thing we have to really consider in these things, and it's often not spoken about in the personal development space, because everyone's like, we must all just, you know, like we can all just think our way out of everything, is that there is a lot of times, depending on like our social backgrounds of where we've grown up, you know, our race, like if we had money or not, like resources or not, is really going to have an effect on how worthy someone actually can feel. And if you've grown up your whole life having less, like, and you're going to, there is underlying beliefs that are often there that have been formed to make us feel unworthy, and that's not someone else's, that's not your fault, that is the system's fault, that is the way the world has been set up, and these hierarchies that have been formed that make us feel unwell and unworthy. And we have to look at that for what it is, and not constantly blame everyone for the way that they're feeling about themselves. The world's not set up to make us feel worthy. It's really not right now being set up to make us all feel worthy or feel good about ourselves, or that we're enough just the way we are. Like, I mean, advertising wouldn't work. Like, half the things that we get sold wouldn't get sold if we all felt like we were enough, if we're honest with ourselves. And these are sometimes the difficult conversations that we struggle to have, because of our deep conditionings that make us think that, okay, this is normal, the way the world is normal, when it really certainly is not. And I think deep down, anyone who's in this group or who's listening to these replays will know that deep down that something's not right. And the only way we can really reclaim our worthiness and step into our higher callings is by seeing it for what it is, instead of getting too stuck into the black and white, seeing everything for the gray that is often there, the nuance that we're often not seeing because we got caught in the feelings of feeling unworthy, and the whole timeline of like, keep going until you suddenly will be worthy, and then you'll have all these things, and then you will feel worthy, and you'll feel happy, and you'll feel content. But it's a lie at the end of the day. And I think more and more people are starting to see that, because even if you get all of those things, if you have deep underlying self-esteem issues and feelings of unworthiness and not being enough, they will still be there even with those things. No amount of thing is going to actually numb that or take that away. They will still be there. And I think that's why a lot of people end up getting to a certain point and they've achieved all these things, and then they actually start to lose things and sabotage themselves because we've never been taught how to actually hold that type of achievement. And we then start to find that like we want to push it all away, because we don't believe that it's something we're allowed to have or that we deserve. So it's really, each individual has to look at this for themselves, but then also see the bigger picture. And why do we want to build our self-worth? What is the point of doing that? Is it just the individual thing, like I want to feel better about myself? In the beginning, often it is, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to start there and to be like, okay, I want to feel better and more resourced. And then it needs to at some point stop and be like, it's not just about me then. Like, how do I help other people feel better and more resourced? And that is often where our higher callings come in, and why we need to reclaim the sense of self-worth to be able to step into that. Because if we're not feeling worthy, it's difficult to mirror that to other people to make them feel like anything more than what they're experiencing is available to them. And like, again, I said this is nuanced, because for some people what is available to them is completely different to what's going to be available to someone else, because of the way the world is set up. And we can't deny that, and we can't pretend that that's not the truth. And that is why we've got to be looking at, like, how do I turn around and take the hand of the person next to me, or who's just a couple steps behind me, or a few steps behind me? How do I help that person move forward? And often we don't have the capacity to do that, because we're stuck in our own unhealed wounds that need to be looked at and attended to, so that we have the capacity and the resources within us to be able to go and help other people and take the hand of the person next to you and live out that higher calling of being in service. And that's not for everyone, but even if you were working in, I'm not saying now everyone must become a healer and a coach and this, that, and that's also part of why there's been a lot of distortions happening, because now we all think we must just leave our jobs and become something else. Like, I don't actually think that's true. I think it's more about asking the questions of, if I'm even more resourced in my team at work, will I have the capacity to maybe stand up to some of the things that I see happening that aren't right? Will I have the capacity to stand up and fight for other people, and not fighting in the sense of like fight, like, but coming from a space of like the warrior of love, like, and being able to say, like, I feel resourced enough right now to be able to step up and be of service to the people around me who might not have the ability to be able to do that. And it's being, often we can't do it because of the way the world's set up with capitalism, that we need to just keep working and keep achieving and keep being more. And we then, when does it end? At what point is it going to ever feel like it's enough, if we don't look at the deeper scarcity that we feel within ourselves? And that scarcity shows up in all sorts of areas of our life. It's not just about ourselves personally not feeling enough. It's just that the resources never feel enough, even if you've got them. Why are there billionaires in the world? It comes down to the fact that, there's this deep scarcity that we have all that we all really have within us, that we have to heal. And there's layers to these things. So it's not like you can go. Often people want the quick fix, and we want to just be able to be, oh, I'm miraculously now better and I'm okay, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen, that sometimes someone just has one thing that's really just sitting in the way, and they just look at that, work with it and move forward. But it's also being okay with, if I might feel worthy today and I might not feel worthy tomorrow, and that's okay, because often then we've gotten into a deeper part of the wounds that we are holding that are stopping us from really feeling like we are allowed to take up more space, and we're allowed to do more in the world, and we're allowed to show up and do the things that we know deep down inside of us that we're meant for. And like, my journey's been difficult. Like, I've struggled to step in, and you might not see that from me to speaking to you today, but that's just you seeing the end journey of a 5-year process of really going from rock bottom and feeling like there was something completely wrong with me, to coming to this point today where I'm like, actually, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. I was worthy the whole time. The world just told me I wasn't. And circumstances and things that happened to me in my past told me I wasn't. I was telling myself I wasn't. I was internalizing all of this and beating myself up and making myself feel like I wasn't worthy either. And as soon as I went through those layers, and I see the same with a lot of my clients, as soon as you allow yourself to go through those layers, you find deeper parts of yourself that have been pushed to one side and that are being beaten up by you beating yourself up, and you are keeping yourself stuck in that space. And it really is allowing yourself to see it for what it is, but also we don't have to blame ourselves, and we don't have to be so hard on ourselves about every day. You're not going to feel great about yourself every single day, and that's okay. There is always going to, we're designed to always want to improve and do more, but at what point do we stop and say, okay, yes, I can do that, and that's great, and I'm going to continue to do the work and heal, but I'm still worthy regardless, because my worth had nothing to do with what the world thinks. It's got nothing to do with that. My worth has always been there because I breathe. I'm alive. I'm here. So I'm worthy of life. I'm worthy of being here. And so is every single other person in this world. And it's up to us to start seeing that for what it is and breaking down these layers and helping each other heal. So that is the episode for today. It's a short and sweet one, but I wanted it to be punchy and letting you know that, like, yeah, your worthiness has got nothing to do with anything outside of you. You've always been worthy, and it's time to claim that and really reclaim your worthiness, because you deserve to step into who in your heart you're meant to be in this world. And that doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean it's all just going to fall into place, but it does mean the more you take those steps, the more you'll start to feel that worth. And once you can do that, you can mirror it back to other people so that they can start to see that. And what kind of ripple effect does that create? So I'll leave you with that and let you contemplate what ripple effects can you create by reclaiming your own worthiness. So have an amazing day, and looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye.